General Motors has become the #1 electric car seller in Canada. Who would have thought this would have happened? I don't know. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. General Motors has become the #1 EV seller in Canada, thanks to, well, I'm sure you know what thanks to. After its EV sales more than doubled in the first quarter, GM claims it's now the #1 seller. With a full lineup of 13 electric vehicles, GM sold more EVs than Tesla, which is a pretty impressive result. So 13 different electric models. That's awesome. I mean, really cool. And that means that GM's EV sales increased by a pretty staggering 252% in Canada in the first 3 months of this year. January, February, March, up 252%, with new Chevy and Cadillac models helping to drive sales. I've got to say, in the last let's say the last 12 months, GM have really upped their game. I think the new Silverado EV is actually really good. The Chevy Equinox EV, though, led the way with 1,900 deliveries, followed by the Silverado with 900, and Cadillac's new entry-level Optiq had a really strong numbers with 615 models sold, matching nearly the 720 units sold of its first EV, the Cadillac Lyriq. So, even the GMC Hummer EV pickup and SUV saw more demand, with sales growing by 232% from a pretty small base, admittedly, to 186 for the Hummer, and the GMC going up by 88% to 252. Guys, I personally cannot understand why anyone would buy the GMC Hummer EV pickup. I think it's bizarre. It's monstrously heavy. It's just, the Silverado EV is good. The the Hummer EV pickup is just utterly ridiculous. Anyway, combined, General Motors sold a total of 5,750 EVs in Q1. According to GM, that means they overtook Tesla. GM Canada posted on social media saying, "We claim the top spot as Canada's #1 EV seller," and Tesla registered a shockingly low number of 524 vehicles in Quebec in Q1, down 87% from the same period last year. That's just Quebec, though. We don't know what Tesla's numbers are for all of Canada. Is Tesla going to bounce back and reclaim its #1 position? What do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are on that. The steep decline in sales in Quebec for Tesla came after the government paused EV incentives from February to April the 1st, and Canada also paused its iZEV rebate program in January, which offered $5,000 or up to $5,000 on the purchase or lease of an EV. That was helped to drive EV adoption, but unfortunately, because they cancelled it, EV sales might now go down. GM did sell fewer Equinox and Blazer EVs in Quebec during the quarter, so it did affect General Motors as well as Tesla. Despite higher year-over-year sales, GM's electric vehicle EV sales were actually down from the over 15,000 in Q4 of 2024. So that's a bit of a disappointing number there for GM. GM will continue to expand its lineup with the launch of the new Cadillac Escalade and the Lyriq V and the Vizik. By the end of the year, there will be a lot of General Motors EVs on the roads. Chevy Bolt EV deliveries will start in 2026, and General Motors is also manufacturing lithium iron phosphate batteries. They'll be in GM's cars in 2027, helping to lower the price. General Motors also has, they're saying, manganese-rich lithium batteries. So new NMC batteries that'll be manganese-rich, enabling higher energy density. They might put those in their longer range EVs. They're going to have 4 different battery chemistries, about 15 different electric car models. It's actually pretty cool what General Motors are doing. I'm impressed. What are your thoughts, guys? Let me know what you think in the comments. Bye-bye. Michael Dunn, the former General Motors executive, is one of the smartest and brightest minds in the global automotive industry. And more people should be listening to what he says, because what has just happened in Mexico is being repeated everywhere else. It's sort of crazy to me that the United States doesn't most people in the United States don't realize what has happened to the Mexican car market. It's been completely transformed. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Michael Dunn says that General Motors have led a parade of Chinese automakers into Mexico. General Motors led a parade of Chinese car makers into Mexico. It doesn't really sound like it makes sense, but actually it does. Here's what he said. I was in Mexico again last week. Chinese cars are pouring into the market faster than you can say, senorita. Imports from China shot up to 485,302 units in 2024. That's 1/3 of all new car sales in Mexico. 1/3. You see advertisements for Chinese cars as soon as you step off the plane, and you see new dealerships for Chinese car makers popping up across the capital city. This is kind of like what's happening here in Australia and in other places like Thailand and Singapore. The speed of change is breathtaking. What makes this story doubly dramatic, however, is the role that General Motors played in accelerating China's drive into Mexico. Now, I wasn't aware of this role that General Motors played. This is actually a fascinating story. Michael says that America's General Motors? Yes, that General Motors. Here's the background. In 2020, he says, General Motors executives in China found themselves under enormous pressure. Sales of the Chevy brand in China were in a free fall, down 63% from their peak and still falling. General Motors and its joint venture, SAIC, state-owned SAIC, were suddenly saddled with massive excess capacity and red ink. They were losing money. As you can see here, the sales numbers have completely collapsed for Chevy in China. They were once the largest car maker. Chinese executives at SAIC quickly came up with a solution. Why don't we export Chevys to Mexico? This would be a dramatic change. The SAIC GM 50-50 joint venture, General Motors owned 50%, Chinese state-owned SAIC owned the other 50%, has, well, always been designed just to produce cars for China, not for anywhere else. To allay concerns, Chinese executives painted a pretty picture. SAIC would handle the work of manufacturing. All that General Motors needed to do was sit back and let the money roll in. That's not what he said, but this is basically what happened. All GM needed to do was tack on the Chevy brand, put the cars on boats, and have Chevy dealers in Mexico deliver the cars. Made in China, Chevy sales started fast and rocketed higher every year, reaching 146,000 in 2024. That was a massive 71% of all Chevys delivered in Mexico last year. 71 of all Chevys, all Chevrolets sold in Mexico, were from China. And obviously, as you can see, 50% of each of those vehicles were owned by a state-owned company in China.